All right, welcome back to Planeswalk with us. We just did a nice little recording session for Innistrad, and we're on episode 2 now.
Yeah.
As always, it's your host, Scott, a.k.a. Cybercard.
And Zach.
So this next part is actually the start of the first card block, Shadows over Innistrad.
Okay.
And it's going to be less of an information dump, and this is more story summaries. And they all tie into each other moving forward, so like... if something doesn't make sense, don't worry, it will eventually, but that's the way it's written.
Yeah, okay.
This one is actually kind of funny to me. This is a nice little break from the Angel Antics, and this is about the second Planeswalker that Innistrad produced.
Okay.
So we actually start with Vronos, the Elite Inquisitor, and before the Curse Mute, he and his hunters were going about the grim task of clearing out villages from werewolves.
Okay.
So they would come in, kill everyone that was a werewolf, and leave. So they actually come across a town where everyone's a werewolf, and they slaughter them all. They just kill all of them.
Okay.
I'm
not a huge fan.
The only ones left over are their kids.
I mean, the werewolves, because I don't actually think we touched on this in episode 1, but like, the werewolves aren't necessarily any more violent than anybody else, right? Like,
They're far more violent.
Okay.
Because when they transform, they're very classic. They will just kill anything.
Okay, they just rampage through.
Yeah, we actually see.
But that was pre-Curse Mute.
This is happening pre-Curse Mute.
Okay.
Yeah, so like they come into this town, they kill everyone who's a werewolf, which happens to be all the adults in the town, and they find all the kids, and they eventually get them out and like, listen. They don't tell them what happened because they can't, but they take them to a nearby church and they kind of watch over them, like, hey, listen, just stay here, everything's gonna be fine. They set up camp around the church. Everyone goes to bed. During this time, though, they're actually burning the bodies of the werewolves.
Oh.
Because they believe that in doing so, that will allow the werewolves who, again, are cursed, they don't have a choice here, will enter the blessed sleep, which is their afterlife.
Yeah.
For them, it's a mercy.
Yeah, it's also really messed up because it's like, oh, hey, little Billy, yes, here's some candy and we'll take care of you.
They don't even get candy. They're like, come on, it's cold, it's dark, get in the church.
Here,
everything sucks.
Eat your gristle stew.
Right.
Meanwhile, like, your buddy is burning their parents' bodies out back. Like,
they actually, there's a line in the story that's actually really funny. Maybe like, they got those with the softest voices to coax the children out, which means these are all hard warrior vets.
Yeah, right.
Like, come on, we have to get out. Like,
it's like, we just killed your entire family, kid. Get over here.
Pretty much. So they get them in. Everyone goes to bed after the burning. The kids are asleep. And Vronos actually wakes up to a werewolf attacking him.
Oh.
And so he does what he does. He kills it, but in the process, he loses a chunk of his cheek and a chunk of his forehead. Like, he just claws it off.
Yeah.
When you kill a werewolf, it turns back into its human form, which is the children.
Oh.
So they took an entire army's worth of werewolves
and put them
in the center of their camp.
Yeah. Smart.
So
how did they not see that coming?
Because they weren't transformed. All the other werewolves were.
Oh, why were the children not?
Again, it's weird on Innistrad. Things shift and don't.
Okay.
So he's going through and he's slaughtering, but he's already realizing that they've lost this battle. These werewolf kids are winning, so he's just going through with his sword and killing, just stabbing and moving on. He's not even checking to see if he's killing anyone. Eventually, he gets overrun, and the pain of it causes him to planeswalk.
Oh.
He gets the shit kicked out of him and winds up bloody on on Esper, which is one of the shards of Alarin.
Yep. Which we will cover eventually, but not for
that's another
quite a while.
huge set.
Yeah.
So he's in the tank, in a specimen tank of the Ether Swarm. They're mages that study magic, and more specifically, they want to study planeswalkers.
Yep.
He winds up there. He makes a deal with them that in exchange for fixing his face and letting them study him, he's allowed to gather as much information as he wants to bring back with him to Innistrad.
I will let you study me, but first, I need a nose job.
Like, legitimately. So they strike the deal, and they're like, yeah, actually, that sounds great. You planeswalk for us. We'll put some monitor equipment on you. You come back, you're good to go.
Yeah.
They eventually stitch his face with Ethereum the same stuff that Tezzeret was.
Yeah, for his arm. Yeah.
They stitch it together with that, and he actually makes a mask of it as well, and it makes him look like a fencer.
Is there what's the card name?
Voronos, the Elite Inquisitor. That is spelled Vronos.
Let's see, Masked Inquisitor. Oh, I've seen this guy.
Yeah.
Oh, this thing is dope. He's got a crossbow. So are the bolts Ethereum as well for his crossbow?
I think they're just silver.
Oh, okay.
So they just face up. He gets the mask, he gets the equipment. They allow him to study all their shit. So he learns everything he can about, like, murdering and magic.
He's, if you don't look up the card for the audience, he's a blue, so hunt for knowledge.
Right. He eventually is like, all right, cool. You have the information you need. My end of the deal is filled. I have the information. You're set. I'm going to head back to Innistrad.
Yeah, I'm out.
So he...
I got to go back to my dirt farm and my shitty plane.
Pretty much.
Like, why would you ever want to return to Innistrad?
It's like home. That's all he knows.
I don't know. Well, because I moved... we live in... I moved away and I ended up coming back, even though I grew up hating this place. So I guess I can understand to some degree.
He kind of goes like full religious fanaticism when he gets back, though.
That I don't agree with.
Voronos immediately like goes to a church and starts begging for forgiveness for his failure to kill the werewolves, for letting his men die, and for being away for so long.
Because all of his men died in that attack. Yeah.
The only thing that are left are the werewolf children.
Okay.
So he actually gets approached by Avacyn herself. And she goes, listen, there is another planeswalker. For whatever reason, I can't track him down. If you kill him, you're freed of all your religious debt.
Yeah. It's an indulgence.
Yeah.
Except instead of paying gold to the Pope, he has to kill.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
who's that? Oh, well, we'll find out.
We're getting there. So he agrees immediately.
Yep.
Of course.
Yeah.
And he actually gets to the point where he starts getting an army with him, like a small platoon, who all dress the same. They all have the mask. He's the only one made of Ethereum, obviously.
Yeah, I was about to say. Okay.
And he actually becomes known as the Gray Fencer because he actually wields a long, thin sword, but he doesn't use it like a fencer. He just beats people with it.
Okay. That seems maybe not the most efficient way of combat, but...
Right. And so he goes after it, and he finds Garrick, the Wild Speaker. He's actually, fun fact about him, the first planeswalker ever designed.
Really?
Yeah.
Garrick, G-A...
G-A-R-R-U-K.
Maybe Garruk.
Maybe.
Garruk, Caller of Beasts.
Yep. Wild Speaker.
Interesting. So he was the first one that they...
First one designed.
Yeah, this is an old-ass card.
Yeah. So she's like, we can't track him. Can you get him? Yeah, sure. Gets this force together. And...
Are you going to get into why she wanted this guy dead?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the whole problem with him is Liliana had cursed him. She has an artifact called the Chain Veil. We'll get into that later. It's a whole thing. It basically makes him rabid. He is just...
Okay, so he's just a slaughter machine.
Right, but he's also a planeswalker.
That's
so he's stupidly powerful and unstoppable, and even the angels are like, we kind of need some help here.
And he's just transporting everywhere, just causing chaos.
But he's not even doing it. He's like so driven mad by the curse. He sees something, he kills it, like werewolf instinct. And he like wields this huge freaking axe. He's an awesome character.
Yeah.
So Voronos tracks him down, and they get into obviously a fight. Voronos is summoning like artifact creatures to help him. He's like pulling him out of the ether and throwing him at Garruk. But he's also creating animals out of mana to attack.
Garruk.
Yeah.
Okay.
It gets to the point where Voronos realizes he cannot win this fight.
He's summoning wolf tokens.
Pretty much. Like bear tokens.
Okay.
Voronos realizes he can't win the fight. He actually goes to Planeswalk, but in the pause, takes an axe to the arm, and it's a fatal wound. So he instantly Planeswalks away to escape, goes to this camp he set up when he was studying with the Ether Swarm.
Yep.
And is like trying
on Alara.
It's a different plane from Alara.
Oh, okay.
So one of the planes he traveled to for them to study his planeswalking.
Oh, okay. And that's where he set up the camp. Okay.
Yeah, it's like in a cave, and he's like, all right, I can recover here. Everything will be fine. So he's patching himself up, But before he teleported away, Garuk is screaming at him, and he can't understand what he's saying. He's just like, it's the heat of battle. Can't understand this guy.
Okay.
He eventually recovers enough that Vronos finds a deer and is like, cool, I'll kill this deer, get some food, everything will be good. Shoots it, goes to drag it back to the camp, and Garuk appears.
Oh.
And what he tells him is, I said you could not hide from me.
Oh.
And instantly kills him.
Just fucking smites him with an axe.
And that's the tale of Vronos.
Wow.
Like, the planeswalker who did nothing.
Yeah, I was about to say, planes with, like, a life lived as shitty as the plane that he is from.
Like, he got up in the morning, chose violence, immediately got his butt kicked,
And then,
chose more violence, and then got his butt kicked again.
what happened to his squad? Or did they die during the battle with Garuk?
They weren't at the battle.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
I think they just, like, dispersed or whatever.
Okay.
There's a lot of, like, weird minor loose ends on Innistrad.
Yeah.
But I think the general consensus is if we don't hear about them, they're probably dead.
Yeah, I mean, from what I know of Innistrad at this point, I would say that's probably a fair assessment.
Just a quick side note, all of these stories are written by different authors. So I'll put them in as a bibliography, just to say, hey, this is this. The next story is actually called Under the Silver Moon. It's by Kimberly Creans.
Okay.
And it contains everyone's two favorite topics: lesbians and werewolves.
Oh, yeah. Which is not a thing that you often see, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, like...
They're not lesbian werewolves, unfortunately.
okay, because I was like...
This hasn't gone full furry yet.
Well, because like there's like lesbian vampires, like Gideon the Ninth is...
Gideon the Ninth, I know that name.
Yeah, me and Kaylin have talked about it. It's a book that people like about lesbian vampires. But no lesbian werewolves.
I know, it's sad.
My current Elden Ring character I fantasize would be, because I'm doing a claw build.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I was very confused on where this is going because I know there's no werewolves in it.
Yeah. Well, and she's wearing the raven feather cloak.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so she looks like very animalistic. I could see her being a lesbian werewolf.
Oh, yeah.
So, that was the creepiest.
That was the worst way I could have said that.
Oh, yeah. Lesbian werewolf.
This next story takes us to Gastoff in Kessig.
Okay.
So the
forest.
the autumn forest. Surrounded by the Ulvenwald. Again, it's a giant forest that's always in autumn.
The Ulvenwald?
Ulvenwald. Ulvenwald.
Okay.
So during this time, it starts off with a town meeting, and this farmer Warren is like, one of my cows ate my other cow. Something's going on.
Yeah, that's pretty odd.
And the only evidence he has is like there's still blood on the cow's mouth.
Okay.
And everyone starts fighting, like, oh, demonic possession. The wards are failing that are protecting us. Now, in the back, there's Helena and Elena. I'm just going to call them Hal and Al. They're two female hunters.
Yep.
Yeah, they have a card.
I think a very powerful card.
Yeah.
But yeah, continue.
So they're listening in, and they're like, yeah, this probably isn't that. They're there mainly because they're hunters. They protect people. They just want the information. They don't care what's really going on. They're like, all right, is there a werewolf? Is there demonic? We just need to know.
Yeah.
They're not even liked by the town because they're kind of outsiders. They live in a camp outside with bramble bushes planted around it as a form of fence to guard them.
Yeah, to keep out potential wildlife and invaders.
They're considered like a necessary evil to the town. As the villagers are fighting, the innkeeper Shoran comes in, and his wife Elsa. They run in the room and they're screaming about a murder that's happening.
Let it go.
Right.
Sorry, it's instinctual when you hear Elsa.
Taking this in as an invitation, the two hunters, Hal and Al, they leave and they're going to go check it out. As they're leaving, the town bell ringer starts going off, who actually has a card. It's literally the town bell ringer.
Oh, cool. Okay.
His name is Orwell. I just realized he sees the entire time his name is Orwell.
I'm doing my best not to turn every one of these names into a D's nuts joke.
I know.
Like Orwell D's nuts. That doesn't make any sense, but okay.
Okay, we're just gonna.
Let's just move on. Let's move on.
They get to the inn and they find a room that had belonged to the Cather Palter and his wife. We don't get her name, and everything's coated in blood, and the room is trashed. So they reminisce, like, not even a week ago, they had guided this couple through the forest. And
Hal and Al
had guided the Palters through the forest. And they mention, like, what they protected them from, and it's so funny to me. It goes from 3 wolves, a ghoul, and a sentient tree. A possessed oak tree. Like, out of all the things to fight...
I will shake my acorns on your face.
So they start inspecting the room, and they find actually there's bindings in the closet meant to hold, like, a large man. So what they think is...
That's why you always set fire to your place when you die, so people don't know about your
kings, right.
your kings.
So what they surmise is Mr. Palter was a werewolf, had transformed, and killed his wife.
I would have come to a different conclusion.
Right. But there's something off about the room. There's no body. There's no evidence of feeding. There's just blood. And eventually they hear the townsfolk coming, and Hal and Al just, like, jump out the window. Like, we don't want to be found here. They'll blame us.
Yeah,
we gotta go.
This looks bad, and we're going to get blamed for it.
They both are like, okay, it's definitely a werewolf. We got to go back to our camp. Let's get our stuff. So they grab, like, silver spears, bows, arrow, like anything with silver, they just grab, pocket knives, and they start tracking it, and they find footprints in the woods.
Okay.
And the prints are still human, weirdly enough, and they're still wearing their boots.
And this is after the curse dampening.
Right.
Huh. So in theory, a werewolf shouldn't even be possible, or if it is, it would be a transformed beast.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, it's after the curse mute, but we'll get into what's going on.
Yeah.
So they eventually follow these prints. They find them mixed with werewolf prints. And they're like, yep, got it. We're on the right track. And then they just divide. So the human prints go one way, the werewolf goes one way. Goes the opposite way. They decide to take the path that leads them closer to the town. It doesn't say if it's the human or werewolf.
Yeah.
I think it's the human.
Yeah.
It takes them right outside the Warren's farm where the cow was killed.
Okay.
So, like, okay, yeah, definitely 100% werewolf. They always come back. We're good. And as they come across the farm, there's more yelling in the town. They run back in. Orwell's dead.
Oh.
The bell ringer. Study the scene, and again, a lot of blood, no body.
Wait, then how do they know that Orwell is dead?
Because he was the one on top of the tower, and he's not there anymore, and it's covered in blood.
Okay, so they don't actually know that he's dead. They
Right.
just come across, like, a crime scene, essentially.
Exactly.
Okay.
So now, as they're studying this, they start to hear werewolves in the woods, like howling. They run back into the woods, and they find Orwell, like, splayed out. He's drained of blood, like, in a weird position. Like, all of his limbs splayed out.
Yeah, like a ritualistic murder.
Exactly. But werewolves don't hunt like this. They just kill. Further down the path, they find another body, Lady Evelyn. She's also drained of blood and sprayed out. She was one of the town elders, and who was doing a funeral rite at the time of the town meeting. Farther down, they find another town elder, Elder Solon, and he's also dead and drained of blood in this position. And farther down the path, they finally find out what's happening. So it wasn't Mr. Palter was a werewolf killing people. Mrs. Palter was killing people, dragging them into the woods, and was possessed by a demon.
Okay.
And she's about to sacrifice her husband, and he's begging her not to kill her because he knows she's possessed. So she starts chanting Omendal, 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 Omendal over and over again, which is the name of a very powerful demon on Innistrad.
Okay.
And Hal and Al, they try and stop her. They, like, tackle her. She's so strong possessed, she just shakes him off and stabs her husband. And that's it. Then she moves over to kill the two hunters, and all of a sudden a werewolf attacks Miss Palter.
Oh.
Just completely eviscerates her in, like, 2 seconds.
Oh, I think I know who this werewolf is.
Yes, you do. And she saves him. Al was about to be killed first. This werewolf comes in, blocks the hit, kills Miss Palter. And now they're surrounded by a pack of werewolves. So it's the 2 hunters left alive, the werewolf that just saved them, and they're surrounded by werewolves. And this is not a good situation. All of a sudden, this werewolf transforms back into human. And she's standing there butt naked.
Yep.
And I love Hale's reaction here. Because anyone else would be like, what the fuck's going on? She's just like, here's my coat, you're nude. like here, this can't be comfortable for you, ma'am.
Well, she did just save you, so
right.
I don't know that I would react. I don't think I would be. I wouldn't think that this is a hostile situation either. I think in this,
but they're also
particular
hunters
scenario.
trained to kill werewolves, which they've been doing their whole life.
Yeah.
The werewolf, she tells him like, listen, get out of the woods. Something's going wrong here. I don't know what it is, but something's coming. You got to get out of the woods.
Like something like literally is like
a force.
Okay,
there's a presence in the woods that they don't know what it is.
Okay.
And
not that something is approaching them at this exact
Right.
moment. Okay.
It's the woods in general. She's basically telling them, get to the safety of a town where there's more people.
Yeah.
The 2 hunters tell her, like, listen, we're hunters. This is what we do. We're not going to leave.
And not to mention, that town sucks. Like, are you kidding me? That
Right.
woman was just a demon-possessed lady.
4
She
people
could,
have died in the last 2 days.
Yeah, right. Like, I don't want to go back to that town. I'm going to hang out in the woods.
And they tell her, fuck off. We're going to do what we're going to do.
Yep.
And she's like, well, I warned you. And if you stay,
Yep.
you're going to die. Peace. And she transforms back into a werewolf and runs off. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Planeswalker Arlen Cord.
Hell yeah.
She is so awesome.
Yeah, I like Arlen. She's one of those planeswalkers that has like a dozen versions too, I think.
Well, she's one of the few Planeswalkers that has a day version and a night version.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to give a little backstory about Arlen. I could do this later, but introduced her. Might as well do it.
Yeah.
She's a very unique Lycan, even among other Lycans.
Yeah.
Where she had a relatively normal life. And then when she was old enough, I'd say probably in her teenage years, the Lycan within her awoke, and she heeded its call. She just went into the woods and transformed.
That's cool.
She joined a pack led by Tolivar, who's a very powerful werewolf. He leads the largest pack on Innistrad.
Yep.
And
Also a very popular commander.
yeah, because he's really powerful.
Yep.
She ends up staying with him for 2 years, and he's kind of like, you're a werewolf, just give in, just enjoy being a beast. And she doesn't want to do that. So she eventually leaves because she doesn't want to kill for the sake of killing.
Yeah.
And Arlen ends up joining the Church of Avacyn. And using wards, fasting, and her own free will, she actually holds back the transformation.
Oh.
So she goes for a while without transforming.
Yeah.
And she's eventually promoted to Archmage of Gold Knight, which is like right under one of the leaders of the church.
Does the church know that she's a werewolf?
No.
Okay.
Because we're about to get there.
All right, perfect.
So the night she's promoted, they get attacked, her group, by devils. They're like minor demons. And this trauma actually causes her to lose control and transform into a werewolf. And she kills all the demons, all the devils, scars one of her friends, Rembrandt, just claws him across the face, and kills an angel.
How is it possible that she transforms if this is post curse dampening?
This is pre-curse dampening.
Oh,
this
okay,
is her
okay.
backstory.
Okay, sorry. Okay, yep.
So she transforms. She kills all the devils, scars her friend Rembrandt, who was like her mentor in the church.
Yep.
And then kills an angel. Like finishes off. She was already injured, but she like breaks its wing and like bites its throat out.
Awesome.
Realizing what she does is the trauma that causes her to planeswalk.
Oh.
She winds up somewhere, and Arlen really doesn't know what's going on because the sun's out, and she's stuck in her werewolf form. She can't turn back.
On this new plane.
On this new plane.
Okay.
Eventually, she learns how to planeswalk on her own and gets back to Innistrad and then transforms back into human. Now, for whatever reason, the planeswalk ability also gives her the ability to shift between her forms at will.
Okay.
And she's not dictated by the moon either. So she can transform whenever she wants.
Yeah.
She realized like the damage she's done is pretty bad on Innistrad. She killed an angel, scarred one of the leaders of the church, and revealed to everyone she was a werewolf.
Yeah, so obviously you can't really go back.
Right. So what she does is she forms her own pack of werewolves, but they fight as a positive force.
Okay.
So she leads them for two reasons. One, she doesn't want people hunting them because they're werewolves, because if that happens, eventually the werewolves will become extinct.
Yeah.
Two, she wants them to do good in the world because she's a werewolf, but she's not a bad person.
Yeah, right.
And it's really her like last ditch effort to like, I know what I am, but I can control it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, essentially, the ability to shift between the forms also makes her like the liaison from humans to werewolves, where she can be like, "Hey, listen, we're not all bad. It's a curse."
Right.
You know, like I'm a human just like you as well.
This is something I want to touch off on. In the first episode, I talked about it very briefly, where the lichen transformation is random because neither of her parents are werewolves.
Yeah.
So her parents aren't werewolves. She never got bit. She just is one. So it's sort of like a roll in the dice of Innistrad, where 1 in a billion could be a planeswalker, but 1 in every 1,000 might be a werewolf.
Yeah. At birth, basically, it's just like, okay, what flavor of awful will you be?
Exactly. This is also like a kind of a retcon her story, because in the original one, she's like in her dorm room in the church, transforms and mauls her friend to death, and then she planeswalks. So if someone's out there like, no, that's not how, this is a retcon that Magic did, and I just want to give you both sides.
Yeah, that was early lore, I guess.
Yeah, it was like I think it was pre Shadows of Innistrad, which is the block we're in. This is actually kind of a really long story, but it's several parts that are all very important moving forward.
Okay.
I'm doing my best to condense it here. I took like 20 pages and made it into like one. So,
okay.
Now, we start with Avacyn, and she's kind of monitoring the plane. She has the ability to, anytime someone prays to her, she can hear it in her head.
Oh.
But because Sorin, well, this is a power that all angels have, but Sorin enhanced it, so anytime anyone prays, she hears it.
Like Jim Carrey in or something.
Exactly. That was my first thought.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So she's kind of in Stenza, the mountain region, and she's like hovering in the clouds, just trying to get away from it all, but she can't get rid of the prayers.
Yeah.
She eventually hears a mom asking for her help, specifically because her kid's missing. This woman's like praying. She's like, listen, my son is missing. I really need help. I don't know what's going on. Please help me.
Yeah.
So
all insistent, like.
Right. Like legitimately, she describes it as like a knife cutting through the other prayers. So Avacyn, because she's called by name, responds, speeds out, and this woman, Kels, is telling that her son,
Kels?
Kelse.
Oh, okay. That's probably Kelsey, I'd imagine.
I'm trying to go by like Old English here.
Oh, yeah.
Because they have like weird pronunciations.
Yeah.
And her son, Hyle.
Or we could go by Gaelic rules where it's spelled one way and you just say it completely differently.
Right. There's a G. Pronounce it like a Q.
Oh, yeah. The word is Sidhe. Oh, yeah. That's she. What? Come on, guys. Get your language together.
Another fun word, Mahail, Maeli, is the name of her son, and he's missing. He's missing in the woods. So Sorin goes to save him, finds him like in a tree. He's just scared, brings him back. As soon as he hands him over to his mom, Sorin's like Avacyn's psychically attacked.
Okay.
And her vision starts suddenly. She actually collapses and is like in physical pain. She eventually like fights it off, and when she recovers, she doesn't see a mother reuniting with her kid. She's like, oh, it's like they're disgusting humans and they're rot. And eventually he's going to grow up to be a bad person. And like, oh, humans are full of rot. So she leaves, and the only thing playing in her head, in addition to the prayers she can't get away of, is the seeds of men are rotten. And that just keeps looping in her head.
Now, I have the word rot comes up in regard to Sorin.
This does not have to do with Sorin.
Really? Okay.
Well, it does, but it doesn't.
Yeah,
we're gonna get there.
He didn't cause this.
He did not do this, no.
Okay.
He, quote unquote, loves Avacyn.
Yeah, and in the way Sorin does, which is to say he threw her in prison for like 1 million years. And
not intended. It's a whole thing. Now, again, this has happened. We cut to the main church of Avacyn in Thraben. And
Robin.
I hate you. And we have the new Lunarch who replaced Machias. His name is Mocker. And he's having a crisis of faith. Mm-hmm. So he's praying to Avacyn, which is what all of them do. Mm. But she shows up.
And she is now infested with this,
whatever's... Yeah. So there's something wrong with her. He at first can't put his finger on it. And then her eyes are, like, flicking black. Like, black voids.
Yeah.
And he's like, listen, I'm having this crisis of faith. Can you help me? She goes, well, yeah, I can get rid of your crisis of faith. I'll just kill you. That will remove all doubts, right?
Yep.
And the reason why she does that is, like, you're not pure because you were born. Which is very original sin to me. Very Catholic. He actually is so terrified, he pisses himself and, like, collapses.
Like, literally?
Yeah, like, he legitimately wets himself and falls to the ground. And then she's just like, well, my job here's done, and leaves.
Another one, check it off. Another one, another soul saved.
Yeah, pretty. Another good work done, everyone.
I made a man piss himself today. I'll give myself an A for effort.
Right. Now we actually get to see the positive effects of the curse mute. So, again, this is all one story, and it just loops constantly. Yeah. So, let me tell you about Lont. Liont. Liont. So he's a really good guy. He's a blacksmith. He used to be a werewolf, but he's not anymore because of the curse mute. He's one of the people who was fully cured.
Okay. Good for him.
Yeah, and he's got a really nice family. And he wakes up in the morning, he gets dressed, and he notices the shutters are broken. He's like, I got to fix that. He goes to kiss his wife on the cheek, and she's like, hey, listen, just remember, don't open any doors that are being knocked on. And he's like, yeah, okay, don't worry about it. Go back to bed.
What does that mean exactly?
I'll get there.
Okay.
So he gets dressed, puts on like his coat, and notices some holes in it. He's like, I got to get those patched. But the plow takes precedent. I got to make this plow for this guy. Keep going.
Yeah.
Goes to check on the kids and realizes like there's a mess everywhere. Like stuff, like glass bottles are broken. There's shards everywhere. There's wood on the floor. And he's like, oh, man, the kids must have like really messed the house up last night.
Kids had a rager.
Right. And my wife, she must not be feeling well, went to bed, whatever. So he goes to check on his kid, Talia, and she's like too tired to fully wake up. And
Talia's not the same person.
That's Thalia.
Oh,
this is Talia.
Oh, okay.
Like Rachel Ghoul's son for our Batman fans. And she's again like too tired to wake up. And she is also like, Dad, remember, if someone's knocking on the door, don't open it. Just leave it alone. And he's like, yeah, sure.
Someone's knocking on the door, don't open it.
All right.
I'm so curious.
And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. But he's like too distracted. There's like a hole in the wall. He's like, what the hell did these kids do last night?
Yeah,
like,
right.
They're like 5.
Did y'all get into my vodka patch?
Right. He goes over to his son, Karn, who's younger than his daughter. And he too warns him, like, don't open the knocking doors, Dad. Just make sure, like...
Okay, this is creeping me out now.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, don't worry about it. And so he goes to leave the house after, like, kissing them both bad. Everything's good. And he notices a smell. A coppery smell.
Blood.
And he goes to leave the house, and there's no door.
Fucking what?
And
this is like a SCP.
He starts to hear a knocking sound. Someone knocking at a door. And it's a door in his head. And against his better judgment, he opens it.
He was warned like 3 times. Come on, man.
Right.
So warned by your creepy pod children.
As he does, like, the fog of the day starts to clear, and he's alone, coated in blood, in the shattered remains of his house with his dead family around him.
Oh.
What had happened is he had transformed and slaughtered them all. And we learn now that the curse mute has been undone.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. As he starts...
Oh, yeah, because Avacyn's been corrupted, so the magic she laid down, like, obviously she's going to undo that.
Right. As he's crying, like, begging for forgiveness, an angel appears, and he starts begging her, make sure my kids go to the blessed sleep. Make sure my wife goes to the blessed sleep. She doesn't respond. She just burns him to ash. Just sets him on fire.
Just torches him.
Yeah. Jumping again, we get to Sigarda. She was the head of the Flight of the Herons. And she's in this, like, ruined tower. It's sort of like her escape. Like, it's an old tower no one goes to anymore.
Yeah.
They describe it as like a sun tower or something, where it doesn't have any windows on the top. It's just basically like a observation deck.
Okay.
And sees this this dark sky, and there's thunder, but there's no lightning. She's watching this, and she's greeted by Bruna and Giselia, the two other remaining angels. And she notices there's something really off about them. They're talking in sync and finishing each other's sentences in like perfect tone, and their voices are matching.
Yeah, never a good sign.
Never a good sign. And they both draw their weapons, which are a staff and dual swords respectively. So Sigarda draws her, which is a staff, and they start circling her to get behind her. And while she goes to turn around, Avacyn appears in front
I think
of
this
her.
is going to end well.
It is going to end very well. Avacyn goes, listen, I've come to a great understanding that I know how we can. There's a final solution. Let's call it. Yeah.
Can we call it literally anything else?
Right. She calls it the Great Truth. And Sigarda kind of knows what's going on. She's trying to get it out of Avacyn to admit it.
Yeah.
But Avacyn won't, because she knows that's like, she can't go that far yet. During this time, Sigarda is thinking back to her sister Lessa, who was killed by Avacyn, and regretting not protecting her.
When did that happen?
Like 3,000 years ago.
Her sister was killed by Avacyn 3,000 years ago?
Right. The other angel. Who the Flight of Dusk.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Sigarda is not the human being killed by the angels.
No,
right?
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got him confused.
That was Lint. Yeah.
Loint. Lointy.
So Avacyn's like, listen, join the Great Truth. Well, everything's going to be great, you know? And Sigarda's kind of like, yeah, sure, why not? That sounds great. Yeah, good for you, buddy. And just to like show her how much power Avacyn has, she destroys the roof and tells Sigarda, like, if you don't join us, that's gonna happen to you. And then her and
So wait, hang on. Just to make sure I got this, because there's a lot of names here. So, Loint is at the top of this tower.
No, Sigarda's at the top of the tower. Loint was the werewolf who got killed by the angel. He's dead.
Okay.
Sigarda's the angel.
Okay. Sigarda's an angel at this tower. Avacyn and Bruna show up.
It's hold on, I have the names here. There's so many names here. Bruna and Gisela show up, and they're the ones talking in sync.
Okay.
There are two natural angels on Innistrad.
And Sigarda is another angel who's like, all right, this shit's getting wiggity.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's kind of like readying herself for battle. Avacyn shows up, does her old speech. Avacyn's like, you can join us, and then like destroys the roof of this tower.
Yeah.
And it doesn't like crumble to dust. It literally like turns into a mist. It's so destroyed. And they kind of leave, but Avacyn smiles at Sigarda, which is the first time she's ever smiled, like in 3,000 years.
Yeah.
Which is, they describe it as like unsettling and unnatural.
Yeah, I was about to say, because like Avacyn strikes me as like a like a Joan of Arc type originally, because like very, very steadfast, very like devout.
Right.
So her smiling, like very chaste. So her smiling would be like probably almost never occurred.
It's not happy.
Very severe.
After the show of power, she's like, everything will happen soon. Don't worry. Avacyn, Gisela, and Bruna fly off. And Sigarda resigns herself that she's not going to let another innocent person die like she did her sister.
Okay.
And she's going to fight.
Against Avacyn.
Avacyn, her sisters, all of them, if she has to. Which, not smart considering Avacyn took out an entire flock on her own.
Avacyn's pretty strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that has been demonstrated again and again.
Now, going back to Kessig.
Yep.
That woman, Kels, who lost her son, she finds he's run off again. But she got him back, you know, they're kind of having a little reunion.
Yep.
And they look over, and the angels are burning the town. Like, just a flock of angels is going through burning the town.
Yeah.
And it's been a couple months since their last interaction with any of them. So she starts praying again, like, oh my God, what's happening?
Which is probably a bad move.
Very bad move. An angel shows up, and I believe it's Avacyn again. They don't really make it clear. Oh, no, it is Avacyn. She does reappear. And once she realizes what's happening, she tells her son to run. Just go into the forest, keep running. Do not stop. And Avacyn's like, all right, well, he may get away now, but we'll get him eventually.
Yeah.
And
we're all powerful angels. Like
exactly. The second he prays, we know where he is.
Yeah.
So she kills the woman, just ignites her on fire, and starts singing.
That's not good.
Going, all will burn, all will bleed.
Oh my god, that's creepy.
And that's the end of that story. So there has been a large shift. Like the curse mute's gone. 3/4 of the angels are turning against the humans.
Yeah, right, and they're just burning people to death.
Right.
Due to Avacyn's brain rot.
Her thing is like, because she's linked with the other ones, whatever is affecting her can affect the others. But whatever affects mana of the plane will also affect angels as well.
Yeah, so some force here is causing things to go wackety schmackety.
And we're going to start to get in what's doing that now. Unfortunately, we have to follow Jace. Jace Bellerin.
Yeah. I mean, Jace is a pretty, for the audience, like, Jace is a pretty...
Yeah.
There's like 10 million versions of Jace. We're going to touch on his backstory for the first episode of Zendikar, which will be coming out after this episode. Yeah. That's going to be just the origin stories of the Gatewatch, so that'll include Jace, Chandra, Nissa, and Gideon.
Oh, Gideon's awesome.
Yeah, so we're going to get into them in huge detail next week, but for now, we'll have a primer on Jace.
So... they don't really make it clear on why Jace is on Innistrad. He just is.
Yep.
But you kind of surmise he's looking for Sorin. And I think the original reason is the Eldrazi are free. Sorin was one of the original ones that locked him away.
Yeah.
Went back to Zendikar, was there for the re-release, and then just kind of pieced out again. So...
Yeah, where has Sorin been for all this time?
I don't know.
Okay.
He's not dead, slumped somewhere, though.
Okay, well, good for him.
Yeah. What I think he was doing, I think he was just, like, so furious at the Eldrazi getting unleashed that he's just like, I'm done with everyone. I don't care. Don't bother me again.
Oh, it was his Dr. Manhattan moment where he just went to Mars to chill out and build a clock.
Exactly.
Or whatever Dr. Manhattan was building on.
They never. I think it's like a doomsday machine. They never really clear.
Yeah, I don't know. I also don't know if it was Mars, but anyway, you get the point.
So,
I haven't seen that movie in a while either.
And so he's kind of sent there. It looks like Ujin has a hand in it, kind of like, hey, Sorin was one of the people who made the original seal. You probably should go find him. So he goes off. It's sort of like, hey, at this point, Gatewatch is assembling to be a multiverse force rather than just protect Zendikar. So they're trying to gather allies.
They haven't...
They've killed the Eldrazi.
They have killed the Eldrazi, yes. Okay. So we'll cover all this in Zendikar next week.
Well, they've killed their physical manifestations.
Yeah. Zendikar is safe. In air quotes.
Yeah, safe as it can be.
Yeah, as safe as anything is in the Magic universe. Right. Like, they're somewhere, even like Kamigawa, which is just Japan, even that's fucking not going well.
And then we'll get into Phyrexia and all that. So Jace is like, all right, cool. I gotta go find Sorin. Everything's good. I don't know why they sent him. He's the most useless. He's the most useless member of Gatewatch, but he's also one of the most level-headed. So it does kind of make sense.
Well, because like Nissa is very aggressive.
Yeah.
And very proud.
Gideon is.
I don't know much about Gideon.
He's kind of the unofficial leader of the group.
Okay.
He is a Heromancer.
So he can control Marvel Avengers.
He can control white mana to create like law and order and like bind people.
Oh.
So he's basically like the ultimate prison warden.
Yeah. Not a fan of that, but
right.
And then you got Chandra, my girl Chandra.
Burning everything.
Yeah, she's just a hothead. Very, very punch first and ask questions later.
There's actually a scene about that in the next block, and it's just like, okay, at least she's consistent.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going to say what I'm going to say because it would be a huge spoiler for Zendikar. So
he tracks down Liliana Vess, who he believes can help him. She's again that necromancer we talked about in the last episode. Yeah. She uses black mana for healing and for necromancy, which I think is awesome.
And she is incredibly powerful because she could either destroy an entire army or destroy the Hell Vault,
which absorbs magic.
Yeah, so she is quite powerful.
Yes. So on the way to the manor, he's with this guide. He's guiding. He's like, all right, I know where Liliana is. Just follow me. They get like, they're a quarter of a mile from the door, and the moon comes out, and his guy turns into a werewolf and immediately attacks him.
So Jace can probably handle that situation, right?
He does. He creates some illusions, but they don't work on the werewolves because the illusions don't have smell.
Oh.
So they instantly know it's not real.
Jace's got to up his game.
Right. So
he's got to make smelly illusions now.
He sacrifices his horse that he's on.
Okay.
And just books it into the manor. He gets in he has to telekinetically unlock the door and then slam a shot and then relock it before they get to him, and he does it just in time.
This is the most horror movie setup. Oh, I'm being attacked by a werewolf. Run into the spooky manor.
Full of zombies. Controlled by a necromancer.
Yeah.
So
great short. Good work, Jace.
It gets worse for him, by the way.
Yeah, of course it does.
So he gets in, and as soon as he enters, the entire courtyard is filled with zombies, and he's just he's prepping for a fight. Because Liliana's his ex-wife, ex-girlfriend, and they didn't leave him exactly the best of terms. Yeah. It wasn't a fight. It's more like Liliana's like, I'm done with you, so I'm going to leave.
And Jason's like, but what? What if, though?
It's full of zombies, and before he can do anything, they kind of part and give him a path to Liliana. So she's inviting him in, and that never goes well.
Yeah, I don't see this ending well for Jace.
Yeah. He gets in. They immediately start bickering like a married couple. She's like, "Why are you here?" Da, da, da. And she's so sure that it's an illusion. She goes up and flicks his nose to I just want to make sure you're solid. I'm not dealing with a hologram here. They go back and forth, and he's like, "There's werewolf at your gauge," and she's like, "There's much worse on Innistrad. If you encountered a couple werewolves, don't worry about it." And then he's like, "Oh, you mean the vampires, right?" She goes, "No, the angels." She instantly is "No, the angels are horrible." And
they're burning villages to the ground now.
Right, and this is one of the moments that makes me hate Jace.
Okay.
Because he's with one of the most powerful planeswalkers still alive, and goes, "Hey," rather than ask her "Hey, can you help me?" He gets into a fight with her. And he's like, "Tell me where Soren is. What are you doing with the angels?" And he's like,
"Where is she?"
Right. And they don't have the same relationship, obviously, when they were quote unquote romancing each other, because Liliana was just using him.
Yeah.
But again, he doesn't ask for help. And he finally goes, "Just tell me where Soren is." And she's like, "Listen, I can tell you where he is, or at least where he should be, but just know he doesn't help people. He doesn't care about anyone else."
Yeah.
Jace is again, "Where is he?"
Just know that, like you, me, and every other planeswalker, he's a huge douche.
Right. She's finally "Listen, I don't know where he is. He might be at Markov Manor, which is their ancestral home."
Yeah.
But she's also "Don't go there. He's not a nice person."
No, he's not going to help you, and he'll probably make lunch out of you.
And he's like, "Well, I'll just go on my own. I'm Jace." And she immediately threatens him with the zombies. "I'm going to threaten you just to show you you're a moron, because I can rip you apart right now, and I'm not as powerful as him." She's 200 years old at this point, being boosted by a magical artifact.
Yeah.
And she's still terrified of Soren. That's how strong he is at this moment. And she's like, "Listen, he survived nearly 7,000 years. He survived the Eldrazi twice, survived the Mending, and he's only gotten stronger as time has gone on. Do not do this." And she's like, "I'm going to go anyway. You can't stop me." And
bye.
You're right. She kind of relents, realizes he's an idiot. It's like, "Listen, all right, you're going to go. I can't stop you, but at least go in the morning. I got a spare room for you here. Just wait till the werewolves are gone at least."
Yeah.
And you kind of see behind the veil here, no pun intended, with Liliana, where she does still care about Jace in a way, but not enough to stop him from going. Just kind of impede it.
Yeah, well, because it sounds like she tried to stop him from going,
Right.
and Jace is just Jason around the area, so...
He gets worse as the story goes on. I hate him. And she's like, "Listen, I have a room. At least stay the night." And Jace surprisingly goes, "You know what? That actually sounds nice." And he goes, "Where?" And she goes, "Oh, it's in the dungeon." And she has her zombies escort him to the dungeon and lock him up overnight.
Ah, good.
It's weird because it's the smart thing to do, which Jace doesn't do any other time moving forward. So it's a weird juxtaposition for me. In the morning he leaves. He goes, and we're in the next story, which is The Mystery of Markov Manor by James White. This one is a really long story that makes no sense. So I'm not going to touch up on the stuff that doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Because it's literally just pages of Jace talking to himself for no reason. He's just talking to himself.
Like an illusion of himself?
No, just like in his own head. And he's like hearing whispers that aren't there. But I want you to imagine like the most grand Gothic castle slash cathedral in your mind. Just like the biggest one you can imagine.
Okay.
Now fill it with TNT and detonate it.
Okay, there's a crater in my head.
Okay. Now take all those pieces that are flying through the air from the explosion.
Yep.
And don't let them fall. Just let them hover in place, and that's Markov Manor. It's like chunks of it are just floating in the air.
Weird.
And so even like the main path to the manor, which is like a bridge, that's like broken up. Jace eventually does get into the manor, and he's making his way through, but he's dealing with some sort of like psychic residue that's like assailing him. It's like making it hard to concentrate. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where like the manor is leading him to somewhere, but he doesn't know where. He's just going with the flow in essence. It's like, oh, I made 3 left turns. How did I make 4 rights? What's going on?
Yeah.
He eventually...
Non-Euclidean geometry.
Right. And he's like dealing with some minor hallucinations. One of the things that he notices is there's statues of vampires coming out of the walls. Like they look like they're lunging to attack. Mm-hmm. And he realizes those aren't statues. Those are vampires trapped in the walls.
Oh,
They
great.
can't get out. He eventually makes his way through to a journal from a man named Genric. But it's not a normal Innistrad journal. It's not like leather bound. It's a Kamigawa journal.
Oh.
And so he grabs it, finds Genric trapped in the walls just like the vampires, and then kind of like wanders his way out. And like that's the whole story. That's it.
Oh, so he just goes to the manor. It's weird. He finds a journal and then he leaves.
My last line for the script is, again, not much happens here. Jace goes in, finds a book, Jace leaves. That's all that happens.
Huh.
Yeah, so he leaves. We're moving on to the Drown Yard Temple. Jesus. By Mei Lee. Another story. Again, I want to credit all these authors.
What is it? Drown Yard Temple?
Drown Yard. Instead of Down Yard, Drown Yard.
Yeah. Okay.
So Jace leaves and he begins reading the journal while like walking. And he finds it's by the Planeswalker, Tamio. And this is actually the first time she's introduced story-wise. This is her like ignition story, I guess.
Oh, okay.
We don't get the tale of like how she discovered planeswalking, but as far as chronology is concerned, this is her first appearance.
Yeah, I actually wonder, because it didn't come up in my research for Kamigawa either. Like, how did Tamio get her spark? I do wonder about that.
They don't reveal it for a lot of the planeswalkers, which I'm kind of bummed about.
Yeah, well, I think later on, obviously we know what our schedule is for next month because of Zendikar and Innistrad, but at some point I want to do mini episodes about just individual planeswalkers.
I think that'd be a good idea. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do anyone, I'm probably going to do just one on Gurek, the Wild Speaker. Yeah, just because he's the oldest one. He's got a ton of lore, and most of it is just I'm angry. He just sounds fun.
Yeah, that does sound fun. And I don't think those episodes will take over the regular schedule. If we do put them out, it'll probably be bonus episodes.
Yeah,
just a short little half hour. Hey, here's all of Tezzeret, here's all of Chandra.
Well, Tezzeret will probably be a full hour. That man is
he's got his fingers in many pies.
I mean, this is the story of Innistrad isn't the story of Innistrad. It's the story of how Soren Markov fucked up Royal.
He always does.
Yeah, that he makes mistakes thousands of years ago.
Yeah, that
doesn't realize it until it bites him in the ass.
Yeah.
And again, he's got the ego for it until this point. Everything he's done up until now has worked out for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And now he's getting his butt kicked.
Okay.
So Jace has his journal. He starts reading it, and it's by Tamio describing the autopsy of a werewolf. And normally she describes you can just take a silver scalpel and cut them open. It's just skin.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they couldn't, and they needed to go to the next town, get a silver lumber saw blessed by an angel, and use that to cut through the skin.
And that's not typical, right?
That's not again. Normally, you can cut them like you can cut a human. Just a scalpel will do.
Yeah.
And they just can't do that. So she starts describing the insides, and she's normally it smells like a human, but there's something rotting inside of this.
Okay.
And the werewolf is much bigger than normal. So something is affecting the werewolves.
And that word rot comes up again. It's what the Avacyn was saying, that humans are rot.
Right.
Okay.
And she describes it like normally werewolves are like humans, but taken to the evolutionary extreme.
Yeah.
Like they have bigger lungs. They can to like run more, to howl. But now everything is coated in some like weird sinew. Some like weird like purple fibrous stuff. And she notices that the sinew had replaced the liver and engorged it more. Like,
so this werewolf's an alcoholic.
There's just something wrong with this thing.
I can't even. I'm trying. I mean, I know you'll get to it, but I can't even place what that purple stuff might be.
Yeah. So like as Jace is reading this, he eventually like walks into this weird monolith. They're called cryptoliths, and it's about his height. It's made of twisting stone, and just take a like a large arrowhead, like a human-sized one,
Yeah.
and like shape a tree root underneath it made of stone, and it's holding it up.
Okay.
And it's pointing to another one, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one.
Oh.
So he starts following
guiding
those.
arrows.
Right.
Yeah.
But he notices like when he touches it, it shocks him with mana. And so he's like, okay, that's not right. Something's weird here.
Yeah.
So he starts to follow him because he's Jace. And,
I mean, I probably would too, but
Right.
like, what else do you do?
exactly. So as he's following, he's reading the journal again. This is when they name them cryptoliths. And Tamio says like they're brand new structures, but the stone they're made of is old, like really, really old. And she doesn't know why. And
My eyebrows are raised.
right. And Tammy also goes to describe that like the werewolf attacks have been more frequent and more violent lately. So the curse mute's gone, and the werewolf attacks are higher than they were before.
Yeah. There's some bad news on Innistrad. A plane of bad news.
Exactly. So Tamio's describing this, and she also notes that like the moon has an effect on the werewolves, but there's something else out there now. The tides aren't moving right. Normally, when you go to a beach, obviously the tides move back and forth. These are moving parallel to the shore.
Oh.
So, like, something offshore is pulling them in and is forming a new gravitational point.
I'm getting Eldritch Horror vibes here.
You should be.
Oh, perfect. Okay. This is like I'm just picturing Cthulhu and Raleigh.
Yeah.
Like.
So, like, whatever that is like such a big celestial mass that it's even moving the moon out of position.
Oh.
But they can't find what it is. So Jace keeps reading this. He heads to Nephelia, which again is that Port Providence.
Yeah.
And as he's about to enter the town, he comes across this woman who's ranting. And she's just like, there's angels and the flood walls are broken, and there's nothing that's like the burden of knowing and asking questions is too much. And Jace, being Jace,
There's shadows over Innistrad.
like pretty much Jace being Jace, jumps into her mind to find out what's going on. Like rather than talk to this one, he's like, I'm just gonna rip the information out of your head.
Yeah, that's not cool either. You should always get consent before mind melding with people.
Right. And I have no idea what the inside of a mind looks like. But
I do.
Well, I know what the nightmare horror mind is. But he's in this stark white domed room with no doors, no windows, nothing. But out of the corner of his eye, he can see a mass of nothing. That's how he describes it. Like, there's something there, but he can't see it. And he can feel it, though. And
Is it the blind eternities?
It behaves as such. And it's suddenly, like, starts growing. Jace has, like, a panic response and creates duplicates of himself. Like, illusionary duplicates in this woman's mind to try and, like, hold it back or do something.
Yeah.
And this thing hits the wall and it shatters it. And there's all these eyes looking up at this invisible thing.
Ew.
And right then, Jace snaps back to his body.
I would.
Yeah, like
this lady's mind palace is a freak show.
Right. He's just like, no, I want that. I'm gone. He wakes up and he's curled up on the ground. The woman is like curled up on the ground. And then rather than just apologize, he just like fucks off. Just like leaves her rambling to herself walking down the path.
Sorry for invading your mind palace and breaking it open with eldritch horror and eyeballs.
Like, every time I read about this guy, I'm like, dude, you were doing the 10% more polite. That's all you need.
Yeah, right.
I was like,
Just, hey, what are you talking about? That's all. One sentence. Hey, what are you talking about?
he just like, I think it, and I will give him credit for this. He is blue aligned, so he's got like no morality. He just cares about information.
Yeah.
So like he's living true to that. I'll give him that. But at the same time, this is a guy who's part of a team that is known for helping and protecting people. Should be your first move.
Yeah, that's the one thing the Gatewatch was lacking was a publicist.
Yeah, like legitimately. So he keeps down on the paths like, I'll leave the crazy woman alone. She's fine. I just broke her mind. It's cool.
Yeah, nothing ominous about anything that just occurred.
Right. And he goes down to the flood wall, which is, as the name implies, it's a giant wall to break a flood if it goes to hit. It's basically like a tide break.
Okay.
And he finds a ring of these giant cryptoliths there pointing to the center. And this is what's known as the Drown Yard. It's a small reef. It's full of crashed ships. Or what happens is when a captain dies, he gets put on his boat, all his possessions are put there, and they drag it out to the Drown Yard.
This is like so Cthulhu-y.
Yeah, it gets way worse. He gets there, and it's surrounded by hordes of zombies. And flying overhead are a bunch of angels.
Great.
Right. So zombies, not good. Corrupt angels, not good.
No.
Something there is moving the tides that is invisible, has no mass, yet still has a gravitational pull. Again, he touches one of the cryptoliths. It's still live with magic. It still pops him. And he's like, ow, shit, why did I do that? Because he's Jace.
Yep.
He summons illusionary duplicates, but one of them is Liliana. And she's just like, you're an idiot. What are you doing? And this is how he talks to himself. Like, this is how he works out
like
problems.
he summons illusions of other people. And
to, like, bounce ideas around.
That would be handy.
Right. So I will give him credit for that. But, like, he does it, and she just, like... They're all just yelling at each other about what to do, but he doesn't have, like, any input.
Yeah.
And then one of them just kind of, like, walks off to the center of this thing. Again, it's an illusion. No one can see it. And it just walks until it's swallowed by the waves just staring up. And then he remembers that Liliana told him, like, be careful of the angels.
Yeah.
So he's like, I got to go talk to Liliana. Something's going on. And this is when Jace starts to mentally collapse.
Okay.
We'll leave him alone, and we'll get back to him later when he gets back to Liliana.
Yeah.
That's a whole thing. But while he's trekking all over Innistrad, Soren is actually doing some shit.
Soren is screwing more things up.
He's actually trying to fix his mistakes here.
Yeah.
And he's actually succeeding in what he's trying to do. So...
I have an eyebrow raised. I'm doubtful.
at the beginning, I told you about the Voldarans. They're one of the other vampire clans.
Yeah, the ones that fly, right?
Right.
Yep.
No, these are the ones known for their shape changing.
Oh, okay.
But all they do is fly. I don't know why. So he arrives at the state, and their matriarch is Olivia Voldaran. Did you ever see... Excuse me. Did you ever see Tim Burton's remake of Alice in Wonderland?
No.
Okay.
As a matter of fact.
Well, if you get the chance, look up Olivia Voldaran.
Yeah.
She looks like the Red Queen from Alice in Wonderland, but taller and dressed in gothic clothing. And...
she's got mad off with his head energy.
Yeah. So he enters this party she's throwing, and he, being Soren, is a dick right off the bat. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting this party.
Oh, did you throw this in my absence?
It's not even that. He's just like, he knows he's not welcome. Creating Avacyn, branding him as a heretic. Like, not even other vampires will deal with him.
Yeah.
Because...
I mean, I wouldn't want to deal with Soren either.
Yeah, but this is more like, religious than anything.
No, okay.
And so he's like, sorry for the interruption, but I need to speak to Olivia. Again, this is all sarcasm, by the way.
Yeah.
She comes down, takes off her mask, and they're having like a masquerade party. She just chucks it off. And she's floating in the air. I don't think she ever touches the ground. Like in all the stories.
If you could fly, would you?
Right. But I'm imagining she's hovering like this. Like an elf.
Like flapping her little hands.
Yeah. So she's like, oh, it's the Lord of Innistrad. Welcome. Now please leave. And gets like these guards to attack him. And so there's 6 of them. And I love that Soren takes out 5 of them with slash of his sword. Just hits them and they start bleeding like necrotic energy.
Okay.
And the last one like pulls a knife, and Soren just goes, "I'm done," and clenches his fist and destroys him.
No.
Like reduces him to powder.
No, good.
So it's just like
Soren is, I mean, he is very powerful against the living, it seems, from...
anything that has blood coursing through it, even a vampire, he can take on no problem.
Yeah.
He can even take on minor Eldrazi without an issue.
Yeah, he kills, like in the beginning of Zendikar, he kills like 200.
Right. The problem is you need to be able to kill... You need to kill an Eldrazi with something created from magic that doesn't have magic in itself. So, like, a huge fire or create an ice pillar to drop on them. That's the only way to harm them. Because anything else with mana, they just eat.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So he uses blood magic, reduces this guy to ash. And now Olivia's like, okay, now you have my attention. You killed 6 of my guards. The fuck you want? We're having a party here. There's not enough punch for you.
Yeah, this was a fun event until you showed up.
Right. And she kind of like plays with him a bit. And she goes, come on, we'll go talk in my study. But she takes the long way just so she can show Soren a room where a bunch of vampires are eating a still alive human. Just to mess with them.
Fun.
Like
but I don't think that would rattle Soren.
It does. Because
really?
like deep down, as much of a dick as he is, he actually does care about human life.
Really?
That's why he helped trap the Eldrazi. That's why he created Avacyn.
Yeah.
He does care, but he does it in the worst ways.
Yeah, okay.
So they get there, and this is when we find out the toll that it cost Soren to create Avacyn.
Okay.
So we get a flashback of like, again, he is slumped somewhere half dead for thousands of years, and he like can't rouse himself. He asks Olivia for a favor, and she goes, I'll grant you whatever you need, but it's going to come at a price.
Okay.
And that's where it cuts out. As a quick side note, I don't want to talk about the Voldaren family, just to get a little insight on how sadistic they are.
Yeah, you mentioned they were sadistic in episode 1.
Yeah, and this is a direct quote. So every once in a while, I think it's once a year, they throw a party called the Court of the Vampire King or Queen. Mm-hmm. It's a disturbing 3-day holiday invented by Olivia herself. A human is identified, kidnapped, and brought to the large vampire state or castle, where they serve as king or queen of the vampires for the duration of the event, so all 3 days. Mm-hmm. The mock king or queen is always terrified, of course. They were just kidnapped by vampires.
Yeah, right.
And they're sort of the best food, the best drink. They can give any order, and the vampires will follow it. The only thing they can't do is abdicate. Then, at the end of the 3 days, they're killed and everyone eats them. Yes.
I mean, that's essentially like vampire Wagyu beef.
Right. They're just like,
Let's marinate it.
Yeah. And this is what they do like once a year.
I can also still think of worse ways to go.
If I wasn't still alive being munched on.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't want to be eaten alive.
Right. I mean, if someone's like, listen, you get 3 days, you can give any order. Hell, you can have an orgy if you want. We don't care. But we're going to kill you at the end of it. I'd be like, all right, how am I going to die? You're going to cut my head off? Yeah, let's do it. Cool. Because there's no other way out for you.
Yeah, right. If I'm going to die anyway, that's not the worst way to go.
Exactly. Now we return to Jace's long journey. And he's back at Liliana's doorstep, which I'm actually happy with because I really like her in this story.
Yeah.
Not this story, but like this arc. She's awesome on Innistrad. And
that sounds like she's the only person that makes any sense
She
so far.
is the only one who makes a difference later on.
Okay.
The geography of Innistrad is very weird because they describe each area as its own providence.
Yeah.
But he gets from Liliana's castle to Markov Manor to the Drown Yard all in like 36 hours, which if this is a country and there's no public transportation and he's walking everywhere, that just doesn't make sense to me unless this thing is like
tiny,
really small.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to be because if that was the case, the vampires would have wiped everyone out long ago.
Yeah, right.
It could just be that each province is like really separated from each other and he's just planes walking between them.
Yeah, that could be. I know it doesn't come up much, but like some planeswalkers can planeswalk on the same plane.
Right.
It just is draining, so maybe he's planeswalking. with the exception of my girl, the Wanderer,
Right.
who can planeswalk on planes easily, but also
Uncontrollably.
also uncontrollably.
So, like, Jace kind of comes back, but he's kind of losing it a little bit. Like, his mind is fracturing.
Yeah.
And...
Well, probably because of the events of that invading the mind of that crazy lady.
Right. Whatever was in her got to him. And Liliana notices something's off right away. And she instantly drops the banner. She's concerned for him.
Drops the banner?
Banter.
Oh, banter. Okay.
Yeah, it's none of the playful. She's like, Jace, are you okay? Like, something's fucked up with you. We need to get you some help.
Yeah.
And he just keeps pushing her off, and he's like, no, I can handle it. I got this. And I'm
Jace Belleron.
Right. I'm an idiot. But again, his mind is fracturing, mostly because of what he does to himself and what has ever infected him.
Yeah.
So he's losing it. Liliana's trying to get him help, and he eventually just like, what are you doing with the angels? I know you're controlling the angels. Like, Jace, I'm not touching the angels. What are you talking about?
Yeah, right. Jace, I'm a necromancer.
Right. Well, she does have the power to like infect people.
Oh, okay.
But angels are a whole other thing. We'll get to them later. She eventually is like, you need to stop and rest. I will not let you leave.
To the dungeon with you.
She tries, and he just leaves. Like, he just walks off. And he's like, if you're not going to help me, I'm just going to go to Thraben. I'm going to find out what's going on, because that's where the Church of Avacyn is, and the angels keep coming up. So I'm going to go there.
Yeah. Might be worth investigating what's going on with the angels.
Right. And honestly, this part is the perfect snapshot of why I hate Jace. He's really well read, but he never does the smart thing. He's powerful, but he only uses it for like mental tricks.
Yeah.
It's like, I got your nose. It's like, dude, you can wipe out the minds of anyone. Like,
hey, you should not take the got your nose lightly.
Right.
There's a series online by Crypt TV called The Gotcher Man, and it's literally like a guy comes to the doorbell, rings it, steals a kid's nose, like actually.
What kind of SCP crap is this?
Yeah, and then he like runs off giggling as he throws the nose in a bag of noses. It's a fun series if anyone likes horror like I do. The Crypt TV's got some funny stuff that's pretty decent. Anyway,
no, and like from someone who and like Jace, whenever he doesn't want to remember something, rather than live with the trauma and grow because of it,
he just forgets
he
it.
erases it from his mind. And as someone who has uncontrollable memory gaps, that infuriates me to no end.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to do that.
Right.
I mean, like, I don't know, because just like we are the result of our accumulated experience.
Exactly.
Like even doing this podcast, like all the weird, goofy shit that I've done, you know, all kind of coalesced where it's like, okay, like the time, you know, when I was photoshopping as a kid, I like that helped make the logo. Right. Audio production for like voice acting stuff, like that's helping with the audio production.
I mean, I learned how to research shit.
Yeah, exactly.
That got beaten into me in 3rd grade. I mean, I did not like to read, and then I got an amazing teacher who basically like, if you don't read, you're gonna fail. And now I love reading. I love researching.
Yeah, you and I, of all the people I know, read the most.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it just seems like a bad idea to carve out pieces of memory. Like, even if it's bad or traumatic, I think you should keep it and just learn to deal with it.
Because you grow from it.
Exactly, yeah.
It pisses me off he does that. So he leaves. Liliana, we actually get a little peek into her life now. And so she's got this artifact called the Chain Veil, and it makes necromancy spells really strong. Like every time you use it, it makes them stronger and stronger. But if you use it too much, you eventually become the vessel for a ogre spirit.
Oh.
Because it's using that as a way to revive itself.
Oh.
So Liliana, she actually can't physically let go of the thing. It has to be on her person. Like, there is a scene where she picks it up and tries to drop it, and her hand won't open. It will not let go.
Okay.
So she's dealing with that, and it's, like, draining her just to keep the effects at bay. And while that's going on, someone named the Raven Man appears. And he's a really powerful sorcerer, but...
And he steals her nose.
But she's the only one who can see him or hear him.
Oh, that's not good.
Right. He's physically there or can talk in her ear, but no one else can see him.
Oh, God. That's my, like, actual nightmare. I listened to this one podcast a while back about a woman who developed, like, in her 30s, immediate heavy schizophrenia.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah, and, like,
Well,
there would be, like...
Beautiful Mind?
I don't remember.
And
she found out she had like a thyroid problem and solved it, but like she had to deal with these hallucinations where there'd just be like creepy men like leering at her and like paralysis demons in her room and shit. I don't know why I'm pointing at your cat, but like that's my fear is that just one day I wake up and suddenly I'm hallucinating with shit like that.
I'm fully expecting that with the damage my brain has suffered.
Yeah. Well, I've got a plan. If I do wake up, if I do wake up and there is a like weird shadow creature, first take a photo of it, send it to somebody, say, hey, is there something here? And if the answer is no, then it's like, okay, either I'm crazy or this thing.
If I get a text from you at 3 a.m. of you taking a random picture of the corner of your room, and you're like, hey, is there something here? Whether or not there is something, you're going to respond from me that says no.
Thank you. Cool. No, thank you for. I guess I won't send my sanity verification.
Let's be honest. Our group of friends is a lot of fucking idiots.
Yeah. No, if you get that text from me, call a hospital. Get me to a hospital because I have either lost my mind or I'm being haunted.
So, Raven Man.
Yeah.
He's one of those characters, I try to look into him, and I got more lore on him in one Wikipedia article than I did all of Soren and Innistrad combined. So I'm like, I'm just going to circle back to him another time.
Okay.
Just know that he is a voice in Liliana's ear, always tempting her to use more power.
To use the artifact.
No, he's like full on like, you could be stronger. You can be so much stronger. You need to get stronger. Like, he is really tempting her to do some shit.
Okay, well, but if he's trying to get her stronger, there's probably a reason for it, right?
He wants to use her for something.
Yeah. Probably not a good thing.
Yeah.
But, hey, maybe. He could be nice.
No, it's not. He's an evil sorcerer.
Oh, great. Yeah. Okay.
Again, I didn't want to talk about him, but like, I read his like first article, and there were so many hyperlinks and stuff I had to research. I was like, I'm just no.
So he's like a Tezzeret character where he's in a lot of.
He's more like Nico Bolas level.
Oh, okay.
He is far more connected. Just because he's got like a long history, he's been involved in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Jace has left Liliana. Soren is with the Voldarans.
Okay, so she wasn't able to like detain Jace.
No, he leaves. It's more like he doesn't like resist. She doesn't like stop him from leaving, but he infuriates her so much. She's like, "Fine, go. I don't care."
Yeah, I tried to help you, and I talked twice now, and you're like, "No, I'm gonna keep Jason around."
He does do this weird thing, and it's kind of like this really sad, desperate, "Do you still love me?" thing, where like as they're talking, he's like, "Would you be sad if I died?"
Nah.
And like, dude, that is the most simp shit. Liliana's like, well, I feel bad about it, like a dog, like if my dog died. She's just messing with him.
Well, yeah.
And so like that gives him the information. He's like, all right, I'm done with you, bye. I'm
guessing their relationship is fairly toxic too. You know.
Well, the only reason they got into one was she was using him.
Yeah.
So Liliana's done a lot of things she's done for the worst way, but for the good reason. Like, even her pursuit of power was to try and help her brother.
Okay.
So, like, she's the inverse of every other character. She does shitty things, but for the right reasons.
Okay.
Also, though, she has the arrogance to back it up. She's over 200 years old at this point. So, Jace leaves. He's going to head to Thraben.
Thraben.
Soren is dealing with the Voldarans. And we actually have to take a step back in time a little bit. And so we touch up on Thalia, who was one of the bishops who saw Avacyn get chained up and thrown in the Hell Vault. Mm-hmm. Mind you, only like a year has passed since Avacyn's been freed. Like, no time at all.
Yeah.
So she is sort of like, she's what's known as the guardian of Thraben, which is sort of like their head of police. And she makes all decisions for like, all right, where do the guards go, stuff like that. And she brings in one of her friends, Odric, and he's the Lunarch Marshal, and he's sort of like the...
Eldrick?
Odric,
okay.
And he's sort of like the political head. He'd be the one to deal with the government. So, like, she leads the troops, he deals with the politicians.
Oh.
And she tells him, like, hey, the angels are killing people. And he's like, they must have been monsters. There's no reason for them to kill people.
I knew when you said, like, he's the political guy, that I'm like, I don't like this guy already.
He's actually kind of badass. I like him. And he comes up in the festival, too.
Oh, good. Okay. That darn festival.
I know. It's just out of my grasp. And she sees all this and is like, the angels, Avacyn herself is killing people. That doesn't make her any better than a demon. And he immediately exiles her from the town.
No, of course he does.
He gets one of his...
Why listen to the people who make sense?
Right. He gets one of his second in commands to escort out Greta, I think her name is. Greta?
Yeah, I think there's a card called Greta.
Yeah. To banish her from the town. She gets her a horse, and Thalia leaves. So now we're back at the start of... after Machias dies, the old Lunarch, the Pope figure.
Yeah.
His successor, Macher, was the guy who pissed himself.
Yeah, that's right.
He also dies, but it doesn't say why. I'm guessing suicide.
On Innistrad, I'm going to go with old age.
No.
Peacefully in his sleep.
Right. The blessed sleep. The disturbed sleep.
Wow.
So after he dies, the leaders of the town are like, listen, we can't keep having our leaders die. Let's just form a council to take care of everything. So it's easy to replace one member out of 30 than one guy every time.
We live on a plane where people die often, randomly, and very violently, so we need we need more than one leader.
Now, this part of the story takes place during Avacyn's, her rage quit, basically. Like, the rot is spreading. And Thalia comes back in, and she goes, listen, one of your members, the head of the council, he's working with a demon cult. He's working with the demon Skurdag. Yeah, I know. Weird names. And that cult is now taken over by the demon Orndal. If you remember, was the one who possessed Miss Palter in last episode.
Yes, right. Yeah.
So...
who was killed by Arlene.
Right. And this cult used to worship Grizzlebrand, who, you know what happened to him.
Actually, when the prison broke, where did he go?
He tried to run. Liliana tracked him down and immediately snuffed him out.
Murked him, okay.
So she goes, listen, I have proof. I got this letter. It's got his seal on it that says he's bringing forces in for the cult.
Okay.
One of the
council member, yeah.
And unfortunately, but she didn't know, is everyone on the council was now part of this cult.
Oh, great.
Like, enough of them were that it didn't make a difference.
Yeah, they had a majority.
Right. They immediately go, like, you're telling lies. You've already been branded a heretic. Throw in prison. We're just going to execute you because we can't deal with this shit. Which, unfortunately, for a religious fanatic mentality, that's nothing new.
Yeah.
She gets chucked in the dungeon. Immediately, Odric is like, yeah, we got to get you out of here.
Yeah.
Comes in, rescues her. They fight their way out of the town. And... they go to this old, worn-down church, and there's a bunch of Cathars there, like the warrior priests.
Yeah.
And Thalia finally convinces Odric that, like, listen, the angels are doing some shit. We need a force here. And reveals she's actually being possessed willingly by a man called Saint Traft.
Okay.
And he was a warrior, like, years ago. Died... like when Avacyn first started to like do her stuff and like started to rally people. And he was such a problem to the demons that they actually had to like trap him to kill him because he was just messing up the demon kind. That's like how efficient he was. So he was willingly possessing Thalia, and they tell everyone like, listen, we are going to start fighting the angels now. Yeah. And this is our time.
I also just put this together because I mentioned Lovecraft a couple times.
Yeah.
And this is very Eldritch Horror-y. And I just wonder if maybe, because it's called Shadows over Innistrad, right?
Yeah.
Shadows over Innsmouth. I wonder if that's where that name came from.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think we're actually at the actual Shadows part.
Oh, okay.
We have two more stories, actually.
Okay.
So this next one is Stories and Endings by Nick Davidson.
Okay.
And now we actually switch to Tamio's presence.
Okay.
So just as a timeline, Jace is talking to Liliana. He leaves to go to Thraben. Soren is at the Voldarans trying to amass an army. And Thalia is in the woods with Odric and Greta forming a resistance movement.
Okay.
So while that's all going on, Tamio is slipped into the city. And we actually get a really nice insight into her mind and how it works.
Yeah.
Because she's not a human. She's a moonfolk.
Yeah.
And she doesn't walk. She, like, hovers around.
Yep.
Again, like the Voldarans.
Yeah, well, because the Moonfolk, all of them can fly. We learned that during Kamigawa.
Yeah. She is musing on the merits of tiptoeing, even though her feet don't touch the ground. And it's just a weird, like, oh, I'm infiltrating this really secure, heavily guarded church. I should tiptoe as I fly. Like, it's just I love it.
Her feet she must have the weeniest legs if she never walked.
All of them. Like, if you're, again, the Voldarans, they don't touch the ground.
Yeah, right. Like, you'd have, like, the most, like, toothpick legs ever.
You'd look like a sack of potatoes with two sticks hanging off of it. Now, I think we touched off on this in your episode with Tamiyo's Magic, where when she reads a scroll, she gets an aspect of the story that's written in it.
Yep.
So she's trying to infiltrate this place, realizes it's too heavily guarded. She can't just, like, fly in. So she reads a scroll that allows her to deceive people as long as she doesn't lie.
Oh.
It's a story about a lesser demon stealing from a greater demon. And she reads a story, so anyone who sees her will see her something that belongs, like another Cathar, a vase, a candlestick, whatever.
That's very fey.
Yes.
To be able to deceive without lying. Because
Exactly.
the fey often cannot lie, so.
She's blue aligned, which when I think of fairies, I think of the color blue.
Yeah.
She slips in and she's like, yeah, cool, everything's good. We learn that she's carrying 32 stories with her. So 32 scrolls. 3 of which are bound in iron bands.
Okay.
And these are forbidden. They're like overly... these are like planet-destroying stories.
Yeah, they're the Shadow Clone Jutsu of Tamiyo scrolls.
They're worse. These are I can destroy a planet with a snap of my fingers kind of scroll.
Okay.
Good
for you, Tamiyo.
Yeah, I mean, good for her. And it also makes a very point that these are scrolls, not books. Like, it mentions it like 4 times.
Yeah.
She slips in, gets to the main library because she's blue. Obviously, she wants to learn. And she finds Jace there.
Oh, great.
And he's still out of his mind. He's rambling to himself. He didn't slip in. He knocked out the guards on the outside of the library. He's just gone. He's talking so, like, erratically. Tamiyo's like, I should just leave. Like, this is another planeswalker. There's no point in me interacting with them. It will just... planeswalkers are trouble. That's her mentality.
Well, and we touched off on this too. With Tamiyo, her mindset is a chronicler.
Right.
So she doesn't really want to get involved on other planes. The only reason she gets involved in Kamigawa is because that's her home plane. But she views herself as like a neutral force.
Exactly. She's a watcher. She doesn't do anything.
Yep.
She extends the first spell around them, so he's hidden as well, and then reads another scroll about these artificial robots. These robots that, like, learn how to reboot their own mind to, like, clear bad information. So she reads that, and it resets Jace's mind.
Oh, cool. So it takes the corruption away.
It clears him out. He's like, he's back to... He's as Jace as he's going to...
She gives him a brain enema.
I'm just imagining vomiting water. So Jace, like, snaps out of it. He's like, oh, I'm no longer crazy. This is nice. And immediately, like, tries to give the journal back to Tamiyo. And weirdly enough, she doesn't want it. She's like, no, you keep it. I don't care. And tells him to leave the plane. Like, you're interfering with my work here. I'm here to record. You being here is interfering with that. And another problem is he's an extremely powerful telepath, and she realizes this.
Yeah.
But because if he loses control again and starts using his magic...
Whoop.
What the...
Sorry.
Starts using it, he could wipe out the minds of everyone on the plane. And she can't have that. That's too much destruction.
Yeah.
Jace again fuses, is like, listen, something's going on. Why don't I bring in the Gatewatch and we can deal with Avacyn together? So she has this great response to him, and this is a quote that it's a whole paragraph of her just dressing him down.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to read it.
Go for it.
Literally starts off like Game of Thrones. She goes, you know nothing, Jace. You suspect, you theorize, you have evidence, but it's far from conclusive. How much do you really know about Avacyn, her purpose? You have no idea what would happen if Avacyn were destroyed. She wards the entire plane. Have you ever heard of a plane-bound being interacting in such a way with the multiverse?
Okay.
I will tell you this plainly, Jace. You know less than you are ignorant of. and I'm not here to fix this world's problems. I'm here to understand it, to chronicle it, to know the truth of it, and to record the truth for all time. But this plane is likely doomed, and I have no intention of stopping it.
Yeah.
It is sad, perhaps, to lose a thing of beauty, but like the blossom of an orchid in springtime, it is a temporary beauty. It is just one plane among countless others. Planes are lost and renewed all the time. Your premises are flawed. So she literally just like, in the most Tameo way, utterly destroys Jace trying to save this plane.
Yeah.
And Jace comes back and like, yeah, but these people are going to die if we don't do something.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't care. And he goes, yes, but if they die, you can't complete your research. And she's like, all right, cool, I'm in. Like instantly. And she's like, all right, cool, that sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You know what? I hadn't considered that angle. Guy I just told is too ignorant to come up with this angle.
So they come up with a kind of rudimentary plan. Her psychic abilities are a lot more even than Jace's. So she can act as a mental anchor.
Yeah.
And his thing is he's going to invade Avacyn's mind, find out what's going on, and then she can pull him back.
This sounds like a terrible idea.
This sounds like a terrible idea.
Like you went into one crazy lady's head and got corrupted. You're going to the head crazy lady.
Yeah. And to kind of like bridge the gap so they're more trusting of each other, they kind of like Vulcan mind meld.
Okay.
So Tamio looks into Jason's mind and sees like, yeah, he is really powerful and he's really erratic and he's kind of stupid and he's done some really bad things. Mm-hmm. But it's always in the pursuit of doing the right thing.
He means well.
Exactly. So as soon as they're done doing that, Avacyn busts in. She shatters the main cathedral window, which is an image of herself, and starts to attack him. Tamio is like just like floating around, dodging it like it's nothing, like a balloon in the wind.
Yep.
Reads another scroll that gives her ice and blizzard abilities.
Okay.
And she's trying to freeze her, which does work to a certain effect. She gets her wing, she falls, and Jace puts Avacyn asleep. And doing this, Jace gets a look inside her head. Mm-hmm. And this is where we really learn that Avacyn isn't acting on her own. We got kind of hits. Yeah. But it's confirmed that something is affecting her.
Yeah.
And even though she's still slaughtering people, she is still shielding the plane from something. Like her magic is strong enough that even as corrupted, even as broken as she is still forming a barrier around Innistrad to protect it from outside forces. Like it's something she cannot stop doing.
It's basically the opposite of Kamigawa, which had a weakened barrier. Innistrad is more isolated in that way.
It's a normal plane, but Avacyn acts as like a second covering over to protect it.
Yeah. Okay. Like a pot lid.
Pretty much. And as soon as he finds that out, Avacyn breaks the control, puts her hand on Jace's chest, and starts to burn him. And Jace starts begging for help and is like, Tamio, I know it's on those three scrolls that you don't use. Can we use them? And she's like, no, I'm just going to let you die. And that's where the story ends.
Really?
Yeah.
Tamio's cold. Is this pre-Kamigawa or post-Kamigawa?
Pre-Kamigawa.
Oh, yeah, right, because Tamio
this is her first chronological.
Yeah, because Tamio gets completed at the end of Kamigawa, that's right, so.
Poor bastard. And now we have the ultimate reunion.
The what?
The ultimate reunion.
Okay. Soren, Ujin, and what's her face?
This is sorry. I Am Avacyn. It's by Doug Beyer. And Jay starts to like beg for his life. He's like, please use the scroll. I don't want to die. And he's like, Avacyn, you don't have to do this. You're still a protector. You're still doing something to help these people. Just, get it to help me. But whenever Avacyn looks at him, and I just want to make sure I got this right, she sees worms crawling out of his mouth, and there's like tendrils under his skin wiggling.
The rot.
That's what Avacyn sees looking at Jace. Then when she looks at Tamio, she sees she doesn't have eyes, but like black hair growing out of them.
Ugh.
And her ears are like long and pointed and demonic looking. So like, this is all that Avacyn can see are these two monsters that need to be put down.
Yeah.
So Tamio starts begging. Avacyn just blasts her away with magic. And the window on the rooftop breaks because Soren drops it.
You could call it a planeswalker party.
It is yes, it is. And he's even like, you got to stop. I created you. Stop.
Yeah, and that doesn't work.
Because she sees him and just sees like a leech mouth, like with suckers, filled with teeth, and like sees him as a monster too, because he's a vampire. Like, it kind of makes sense.
Well, but she's also his dad,
right?
He's sorry. He's
her dad.
He is her dad as well. Yeah.
And weirdly enough, he doesn't like tell her to like, hey, just back down. He's like, come with me to the basement. I can fix you. Everything's going to be fine. Just come with me to the basement.
Okay.
And she keeps refusing. And he goes, listen, I don't know what problem you have with Jace or Tammy, who doesn't know their names. Like, I don't know what these two are doing that are causing you to attack them. But if it'll make you feel better, I'll let you kill him first, and then we can go to the basement. So he's offering up these two planeswalkers. And she refuses. And she can't. She's still holding Jace. She's like hasn't killed him yet, but she's got him ready to.
Yeah.
And a dozen angels come in, and Soren just starts shredding them because they're all under her control.
Yeah.
And she's telling him, "Hey, attack Soren."
Is Soren stronger than Avacyn? Because I mean, he created her, so I guess he would have to be, right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty wild considering how powerful Avacyn has been shown to be.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, our third podcast host is demanding attention.
So
toast.
These angels are going through them, and Avacyn actually, something happens first. The reason she calls the angels down is they're sitting up there watching. Avacyn goes to blast Soren with her magic, and it just fizzles out. The spell that created her also protects her from Soren's magic.
Really?
I'm sorry. The spell that created her also protects Soren from her magic. And so that's why she summons the angels, and they all attack him. And he starts to tell her, like, listen, you can't hurt me because I created you. You're part of me.
Soren tells us.
Soren's telling this to Avacyn.
Sorry, French Toast was distracting me a little bit.
Our third host.
Our third host. Scott's cat.
And it starts to get through to her because he's like, I created you. Don't resist this. And she starts flickering back and forth in her head. So she goes, I am Avacyn. I am here to protect. But, and then she starts imagining like all the deaths she's done. Mm-hmm. She goes, villages are burning, have innocents slain, not a mother crying over a child, which is Kelson McHale, but I have not protected is the message that gets through. And it's enough that she starts like snap out of it, and then whatever's affecting her hits her twice as hard, and she's back in.
Oh, great.
It gets to the point that she doesn't see Soren as a monster anymore, but she also like is like, I hate you for creating me. You're the reason I have this flaw in the first place. She starts actually summoning power from the moon, which that's her whole thing is the moon motif. And this is when the angels like start attacking again. Again, cuts through them like they're butter. Soren just kills them all. The last one he kills in the best way. All the other ones he just like cuts to ribbons, kills with necrotic magic. This last one, he just grabs, looks her dead in the eye, and throws her out the window. like into the ocean. That's all he does.
Into the sea with you.
And now it's down to Soren and Avacyn, and they're just beating the shit out of each other. Soren and Avacyn, and they're just beating the shit out of each other because now she's seen him as a monster. That whatever's been affecting her has doubled its rate of infection, and he can't get through to her anymore.
Rate and strength.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But because she no longer sees him as a human or her creator, she can harm him. So she starts like taking chunks out of him. Soren gets to the point where he's like, screw this, I'm just going to end you. Gets behind her, starts like draw out her blood. And when she's weakened enough, slams her through the church floor.
To the basement.
Into the basement.
Okay.
And this is where we find this is where Soren had been slumped over for like 400 years, for like 4,000 years.
Oh, okay. The basement of this church. Where are they at right now? They're in
the Church of Avacyn in Thraben.
Oh, okay.
So like, this is like the main church. Like, he went there before the church founded, created a basement, and then created an angel there.
Okay.
When they get there, they know Avacyn notices a burn mark in the shape of an angel and realizes this is where she was born. Yeah. And Soren kind of like softens up here because she's like, I'm flawed. You can never make another one of me. I'm the greatest thing ever. And Soren's like, yeah, I can't make another one of you because there's only one you. Just like I can make another Hell Vault, there's only one Hell Vault.
Yeah.
And she calls herself her daughter, but kind of like his daughter in a biting way. Like, oh, well, I'm just your daughter or something like that. And he's like, okay. And he says, what cannot be destroyed must be bound. Grabbing his sword, he recites the spell that created her backwards, and she dies.
It's like that Family Guy joke where you say Alex Trebek's name backwards and...
What was that?
Well, no, that's from something.
Alex Trebek. Kebert Zella.
Yeah,
that's Family Guy.
No, but like that's...
Jeopardy.
No, I know that, but that is a thing from...
Superman.
Is that from Superman? Oh, yeah, okay.
General Zod, that's how they get him back in the Phantom Zone, I think.
Oh, my God, dork.
Yeah.
Why was that information so, like, ready in your head?
I don't know. I've been watching a lot of DC stuff. So she burns away to ash.
So she's dead.
Avacyn's dead.
He just unmakes her. Holy shit.
And so Jace and Tammy were watching this fight. They have destroyed this church from the inside. Soren just kind of, like, pulls himself out of this hole and just walks away. And he's like, I got to get ready for whatever's coming.
Yeah.
And...
Yeah, because there is some... I mean, they learned nothing here, is what I'm gathering. Because, like, they still don't know what infected Avacyn, and what the shadows are over Innistrad.
As Soren leaves, like, I got to get ready. Something's coming. Jace is like, what did you just do? This isn't okay. What did you just do? And as he's yelling at Soren, the sky starts to rumble, and the sky, and then it cuts out.
That's never a good sign when the skies are rumbling.
Yep, and that's Shadows of Innistrad.
Oh my God, what a cliffhanger!
It gets so much fucked up in Eldritch Moon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I got to get to that damn festival.
That's the next arc because it goes Eldritch Moon, Midnight Hunt, which is where that happens, and then Crimson Vow, which is a wedding.
Oh. A vampire wedding?
Yeah. I mean...
Crimson Vow kind of sells it.
Yeah. Well...
That was fun.
That was a long one. Sorry about that, everyone.
No, well, I mean, I'm sure some people will be happy about it. I know, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and, like, when I get an episode that's 2 hours long, I'm like, yes, so...
Oh, 2 hours of time.
Yeah,
I mean, so, as always, we'll see you on the next plane.
Yeah, thanks for joining us here. Next week is going to be a break from Innistrad. We'll come back, of course, and finish the story, but we're going to do start Zendikar. So next week is going to be the Planeswalker origins for the Gatewatch, or the original Gatewatch, because it changes throughout the years. But
it starts off with 4 members.
We'll have 2 weeks of Zendikar, and then we'll be looping back to finish Innistrad, and then at which point, once all the sets are done, we've talked about this before, but we're going to release like a compilation episode where it's just all the parts together. It'll be like, like one big 8-hour block.
Oh, God. Yeah. Innistrad's going to be like 12 hours.
Yeah. So, if you, take time, listen to it, and then jump back in at the end, you'll get the compilation. Thanks for joining us, and see you on the next plane.
Peace out.